Welcome to You're Probably Right, the space for straight talk about life, love, and the choices that shape who we are. No filters, no fluff, and no pretending it's easy. Just real stories, honest questions, and maybe the truth you didn't know you needed. Got something on your mind? Email us at yprpodcast@gmail.com. Now, let's get into it.
Hello there. This is MCM. How you doing? I'm so happy you stopped in. Here's the joke. I just started this episode, and dumb me kept blathering on for about 4 minutes of the most amazingly profound stuff I've probably ever said on this episode or on this podcast, and I didn't hit record properly, if that's a thing. Apparently, I'm pressing it on this amazing MacBook Pro mouse pad thing, and somehow it double tapped. I really think something's wrong with this particular one. I've never had this issue before with any other laptop in my life. It's frustrating, but at the same time, funny. Let's see if I can try to redo it. I hate that because sometimes something's on my chest, something's on my heart, and I want to say it to someone. And if I say it, and for whatever reason, maybe in a message or typed out something and it gets deleted, even though I try to redo it, for some reason it doesn't hit the same way. Maybe it's just not hitting me the same way. One thing, I have a treat for y'all. So here's a joke. The way I do my podcast, sometimes I've written out a whole bunch of stuff, and I've tried a couple times just to have AI read it. My voice, because I cloned my own voice, of course. But I realized that some people do that using other people or other famous people's voices. I think they even have Burt Reynolds on there for whatever. I don't know why his voice would be that voice that they would. Maybe his family needed money. I don't know. But they use voices like Tony Robbins or Jordan Peterson, people with very, very distinct, recognizable voices. I'm surprised they haven't used Cat Williams by now. And I think that's cheating. Now, I think if Jordan or if Tim Robbins wanted to use their own book and they wanted to use their cloned voice to get out their message, that like the information that they have researched or that whatever they have written, I think that's fine, because maybe you don't want to read your own stuff on a microphone. Maybe you don't have time, or there's just so much of it. Like, these guys have written books and books and books before there was cloning your voice by AI. You understand? That's okay. But still, I think it'd be even much more, I'm going to say his word again, profound, if the person took the time to do it themselves. So understand the way that I do my podcast is it's me giving my heart, how I feel at that particular time. And earlier what I was saying was I liken it to, say, an artist who maybe sings, like maybe you have a favorite artist, whoever you maybe want to think about that. And they have certain albums that are amazing and you love them. And then they have certain albums which you're like, what is this nonsense? I know a lot of people felt that way about Kanye West. They'd be like, I don't like 808 and Heartbreak, but I love, College Dropout or whatever it was? Or High School Dropout. I can't remember what it was. But even though it was the same artist, same guy. But the thing is that people try their artistic impressions or artistic freedom to do different things. Maybe they're at a different place in their life. Maybe they were married, now they're not married. Maybe they were married and broken up. Maybe they're married and they have kids. And they have their different walks of life. There are different stages in their lives, and therefore the music is different throughout these stages. So with my podcast, it's not just one thing. Like you'll have the episode where I'll give 25 questions, where I answer the 25 questions, or you'll have a bunch of those, or you'll have times where I'll just do a whole monologue and I'll read it straight, or I'll have a setup with just one-liners and I ad lib each section, and I try to keep it all together, and in a way that I'm not jumping from topic to topic, but I'm actually presenting something in an organized fashion. And there's some other ones, just my opinions on a lot of different things, or things that I've actually researched and I'm presenting to you. So understand, when I'm doing this podcast, it is for entertainment purposes only. But through me growing and learning, like today, we're at episode 238. At this point in time, my podcast has been going on for 4 years, I think, maybe four, almost 5 years, with 238 episodes. I don't know, you can divide that. But I have taken breaks. There were times when I thought I was going to totally just scrap the whole thing. And I think I've taken it as far as I've gone. And, I went to the, to the length of saying, how long should a show really last? Like, is a show supposed to really live like the lifespan of somebody, or somebody's total adulthood? Like, that's not normal. And then I was researching things like, how long did Seinfeld go? How many episodes? And how many seasons was Friends? The Cosby Show, and like all the big shows that really, really captivated an audience for a time period, And I realized that most of the best ones were between 80 and 120 or something, but the average, like, best top of the tops stopped somewhere between 80 and 91, I think, or something. And I was like, I'm past this. And then I took a break, and I think I took I think the longest break I took from doing the podcast was probably like a month and a half throughout that time, maybe a little bit longer. Maybe some stuff happened that I can't remember. Maybe 2 months, probably like death of my sister or my mom, or something like that. But yeah, so, you get, like, even that. I did podcast when those things happened. And, there was one where I probably got a little emotional or whatever it is. And somebody I know would probably laugh about that. But, and I haven't even gone back to listen to those. So just understand that this podcast is a work from my heart, as well as my mind and my brain. And also I stand on the shoulders of giants, who have come before me, and who know a lot more than I do. And I always profess that I'm not a professor. I do not profess to be a professor of anything, just a professing Christian. And even that, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. And not saying that I'm failing every day in a big way or something. But the point is that a lot of the time, I'm just speaking my heart, speaking my mind. Sometimes I'm speaking from experience. Sometimes I'm speaking from what I've learned from others, or from what I've read in a book, or read in an article, or from the Bible, or whatever it is like that. So I just wanted to let you understand that you're listening to a person. You're listening to a person at this point has not gotten rich off this podcast. So I'm not just mixing up some sort of, what do you call it? Conjuring up some type of an episode every week and just giving you the same type of thing every week. It changes. So although there are 238 episodes now, you might not like every single one, and some might just have nothing to do with you, and then some you might hold dearly, and you might want to pass them on, which I would really appreciate if you'd pass it on to your friends. This is going to be a longer one, I believe, but again, because you can literally look at the thing and see how much time it's going to take, and I've already burnt almost 9 minutes of it. Here's a joke. Speaking of which, I have cloned my voice. I think I did 2 episodes where I just used my AI voice and read through an article that I wrote. But here's a joke. I wanted to. I was gonna do something for social media, and I said, you know what? Sometimes I can speak in different accents. I can do a pretty good Jamaican accent because my parents are Jamaican, and then I have a lot of family from England, and I've watched a lot of English movies and talked to a lot of English people. So sometimes for jokes, I'll break off in some sort of an English accent. I'm sure from different places, but anyhow, so there was this little piece that I did that I was going to use on Instagram or TikTok or something like that, or just a short on Facebook or something, just to get my message out a little bit, but something really quick. I think it's about a minute long. So I'm going to play that for you because it's kind of cool. I might start making it a part of my regular podcast. Probably not, but Anyhow, I'm going to play it right now so I don't forget, and then I can get into today's proper episode. So there we go. I'm going to slide it over. And remember, it is my voice. It's just I cloned my voice while I was speaking in an English accent, and it was only about 30 seconds it had, so it's not perfect, but you can probably still tell it sounds familiar to me in some way. There we go.
Hey there. I see you. I see you sitting by the window, watching the street, glancing down the hallway, looking at the car next to you or the person beside you on the bus or across the train aisle. I know you spend a lot of time around people but still feel alone. Or maybe you're at home by yourself with no real outlet, because somewhere along the way you stepped back from the relationships and community you once had. Maybe you've been pulled into the screen, hours on the computer, video games, or social media, while the real world passes by. Maybe your marriage has broken down, and you're left feeling isolated because the one person you leaned on most is no longer there in the same way. Don't give up. Don't stop building the life God made you for. Family is the cornerstone. Whether you're working to strengthen the one you have, rebuild after loss, or create a new one. Surround yourself with people who share your values. Join a church where families gather and grow together. Volunteer, join a local sports team, or take a job where you can meet and talk with people face to face. You were made for connection, real, lasting, in-person connection. So keep reaching out, keep trying, keep fighting for the kind of life and relationships that bring joy and stability. I see you, and more importantly, God sees you, and He calls you to live in fellowship, not isolation.
All right. So hopefully you like that. Hopefully you understand it. And it's just like I know everybody thinks that they know everything. If you go on social media, everybody has these groundbreaking things that they say in 30 seconds or less. A lot of the time they're useful, but for some reason they don't really stick. I think maybe it's because it's just a short message, or maybe they stick with you. But I've found that I'd be like, wow, I better repost this. You know what I mean? And after you hear it a couple times, it's like, okay, but what else? Like, I don't know. I know people chop up their podcasts all the time like that, but and I haven't too much, but it seems like it's the way to go. Sorry about all the noise. I need some ice water. I love ice water for whatever reason. Okay. Here we go. I know you guys probably hear this a lot in a lot of my episodes. Trying to grow this beard, but it's interesting. It's a little bit irritating, you know? I'm so used to having a clean shaven face, and this beard it's a trip, but it's fun at the same time. Okay, so episode 238. I have 239 here. And again, I'm going to tell you, because I try to keep everything open to you people. I actually wrote a story. So I actually had 238 for that. So right now this thing says 239, but it's really 238 because I read a story. I was reading a story last night actually, and it was going to be at least an hour and 10 minutes. And I got to about 40 minutes. And it was supposed to be full of suspense, and it was, but I was having trouble reading the thing. I was like, it was just, I don't know. I think I tried to read it too late. I don't know if I'm ever going to do it, but it was fun. And again, that would have been a total different type of episode. It was like a short story for adults. And yeah, it didn't make the cut, I guess is the best way to put it. So here we go, starting the episode at 14 minutes and 20 seconds. That's wild. Anyhow, this episode is called From Losing Yourself to Loving Yourself, Rebuilding Self-Respect After a One-Sided Relationship. And it doesn't have to be right after a one-sided relationship, but maybe it's just something in your past. Maybe it happened a year ago. Maybe it happened 3 years ago. Maybe it happened 5 years ago. Maybe it happened yesterday where it ended. And you're wondering and trying to figure out, where do you go from here? So I'm going to try to help you suss that out today. Okay. Yeah. So let's get it. Let me just fix this. kind of interesting doing the podcast and controlling the wave and the sound files. It's kind of interesting. Every once in a while you make a mistake because you got more than one thing that you're paying attention to. Okay, here we go. Should I put my glasses on? Probably makes for a better experience for the listener, but sorry, I'm not gonna do it because sometimes that even makes my eyes tired, makes me tired using the glasses. I'm still not used to them. Okay. But what was that thing from that movie? What's it called? Was it Blended? I think it was Blended. The girl was practicing to say speeches. Was it Butta Get? So I can't remember. All I know is it's funny. And you gotta check that movie out with Adam Sandler. Anyhow. You ever wake up one day and realize you don't even know yourself anymore? Not because of age, not because of life, or maybe just because life has just changed. Or maybe it hasn't. I mean, you actually look at your daily life and think, when did everything I do revolve around this one person? And you probably remember times when that wasn't the case. And maybe it didn't start that way, obviously. Well, hopefully. You used to hit the gym a few times a week or many times a week. You had your sports night. You'd hang out with friends, go to those random events that just sounded like fun. You had a hobby or hobbies, interests, things that were yours. Then a relationship happened. And listen, it could have been marriage, a long-term thing, or maybe something you thought was headed in that direction. And it started small. You skipped the gym one night to help them with something, maybe to move, maybe to help them to do some homework. No big deal. Then another night. Then the weekends were all about their plans and spending time with them, so you shorted some other things. Their needs, their schedule. You cut back on seeing your friends. The hobbies got dusty. And over time, you weren't living your life anymore. You were living around them, that person. And maybe you didn't even notice how far it went until the love you thought you were building either dried up or ended. And now you're sitting there with no social life, no friends at all, no energy for the things you used to love, or maybe you don't even understand them and wouldn't even know where to begin. Maybe those things have passed you by. Maybe age is a factor, ability, and no idea who you are without that relationship or a relationship. That's where we're going today. Because if you've been here or you're here right now, you don't have to stay here. We're going to talk about how to rebuild your self-respect after giving too much, how to make sure you never lose yourself like that again. And don't get it twisted. We're not talking about never love again or love that way, because, that's one thing you hear from people is like, sometimes maybe you'll talk to somebody and it's like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I did this and I did that and I did this for that person. And then they get into a new situation and they hold back and they let the person know. They say, oh, well, I gave this person space and I gave this person time, but I'm not doing that. I'm not comfortable doing that. It's like, so then already you're shorting the next person, probably the way that you were shorted. And it turns into some vicious cycle of people. Either for you, then the next person does it to the next person, and so on and so on, if you understand what I'm getting at. And how to walk into your next relationship from a place of strength. And before we close today, I'll give you a caveat. Because sometimes, yes, you can start healing while you're in a new relationship if it's the right kind. That's the only catch. Because I know a lot of people think they need to just go sit one side, be by themselves, and learn how to be in a relationship properly and love themselves and all that. And sure, that is something that many people do, but it's not the only way. You know, it's kind of like I was watching this video today, and some people were saying like there was this issue, and this woman showed up at this dude's house. He was cheating on his wife with her, or whatever the case was, and she wouldn't go away. She gave the guy $100. Now that I think about it, it's kind of crazy because I was like, okay, why did you give you $100? Because you needed $100. It almost seems like it was set up. And sorry, I'm gonna get into segment 1, naming the pattern. But basically, she goes to the guy's house the next day after giving him the $100 to tell him that she needs the $100 back. So that was the excuse to show up at his house, wife there and all. And Buddy comes out and he shoots shots in the sky. This is obviously happening in America, where everybody seems to have a gun. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know that's not the case, but the way these cop shows happen. Anyhow, he got arrested, whatever it is. But it's just interesting. I don't even know what the point was. Hopefully you know what the point was. But it's kind of funny how she did that. You know, she wanted to blow up his situation because she really liked him, and she wanted to figure out a way to weasel her way into his life that maybe he would have no choice but to drop, you know, to end his relationship and be with her. And she tried. She smiled and she was talking to the cop when he was talking about the situation. And yeah, anyhow, moving right along. Anyhow, naming the pattern. First segment. And the segments aren't that long, so don't worry, like a couple paragraphs. First thing. And remember, you can pause this thing at any time, by the way. And obviously, you know that if you're a person who listens to this podcast or any podcast, you don't have to stick it out through the whole thing, right? We live in a day where you're not rewinding tapes now, right? You can just pause, or you can remember the timestamp. Hopefully this one will be evergreen, as I say. Sorry, I need some water. Hopefully you feel my personality through this thing. I think that's the one thing that probably attracts me to podcasts more than anything else is the person behind the podcast. Not even necessarily the information, maybe the way that they laugh at their own jokes, you know, or they just go off in these mind maps or they blue sky a whole bunch of ideas and getting off track, and, you know, just certain quirks and stuff about the individuals, the personalities, you know what I mean? Anyhow, let's start this off properly. First thing, you've got to call this what it is. I call it transactional caregiving. That's when you give and you give and you give, not just out of kindness, even though you think it is or you say it is, but because deep down you believe if you give enough, they'll love you back more. It's like you're putting coins in a vending machine, waiting for affection to drop out. Chances are it doesn't really ever drop out that way. And it feels noble. You tell yourself, this is what love looks like. Love is sacrifice. Love is saying, I love you. But when it's unbalanced, you're not sacrificing. You're basically just erasing yourself. I've seen this when men who stop all social outings because she doesn't like it when I'm out with the guys, or with women who end up carrying the entire household load, cleaning, cooking, managing everything, just to keep the peace. Over time, you stop even asking what you want. You don't even make any requests. Your whole compass is set to keep them happy. And a lot of you are walking on eggshells while trying to keep them happy. And for some reason, they never seem to be happy. Isn't that funny? Maybe you made a mistake. some way where you lost your way and you're trying to make up and you just can't make up. You can't make up for anything. And here's the truth. It doesn't work. You can't give your way into someone loving you the way you want. And even if they do care for you, that care doesn't deepen because you've made yourself smaller. It often does the opposite. It breeds complacency in them, resentment in you, and eventually, for both of you, disconnection because you're going opposite directions. Did you hear what I said? It said it breeds complacency in them. Complacency, they just like, whatever. Okay, this person's going to always be here, so I can just kind of nonchalantly, as they say in West Indian terms, take my eye and pass them. It's like they're there, but they're not there. I can look right through them and see what else I got to do tomorrow. It's not my problem what their needs are. It's like, they'll be there anyway. And then you, being looked past, being overlooked, you have your resentment, and bitterness ends up a root of bitterness, and then unforgiveness. And then that's usually when everything goes, right? Maybe you find someone else while you're still in the relationship because of all that nonsense happening in the middle of your relationship. Who knows? Segment 2. Why self-respect matters more than love. This is where people push back. They say, no, love is the most important thing in a relationship. Wait, they say, no, love is the most important thing in a relationship. And I say self-respect is more important than love. Here's why. Love without self-respect is just dependency. You can feel deeply for someone and still be in a dynamic that is bad for you. Self-respect means you set boundaries. And for whatever reason, a lot of people are scared to set boundaries. You feel you're going to lose the person. And that seems to be your motivating factor in a lot of the stuff you do. You value your time and your energy. You won't accept disrespect or being sidelined. And it has nothing to do with you fighting back. It has nothing to do with you ignoring them. It has nothing to do with playing tit for tat, by the way. Those aren't good things at all. And because of that, you naturally choose people who treat you well when you set boundaries. If you don't, you'll obviously get people who treat you like garbage. And boundaries doesn't mean that you're setting up walls. And, I was speaking to someone, and I think that's how they took it, or that's how they think it is. It's like when you're setting boundaries, it's like wall here. Nope, you can't do that. Nope, I can't do that. Nope, you're not coming over here. Nope, you're not doing that. And it's just wall, 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 wall. And they basically box themselves in. No. When you're setting boundaries, those boundaries are set up with a door. And as things progress, the door's open to those boundaries for that person. You understand the difference? A wall is meant to be there. And if they crumble and a wall was up, it's a huge thing. And who knows what it takes to really crumble a whole wall. But the boundaries are usually set with a door. And they open from time to time for the right person. Think about it. If you teach someone that you'll bend over backwards and never complain, they'll stop noticing your effort. And you'll keep bending over backwards always. And eventually, the fact of saying bend over backwards, think about it. It hurts. And you're just going to continue to hurt yourself. And they're going to continue to let you hurt yourself. And that's where you get bitterness, right? But if you teach them through actions that you have a life, you are important too, standards and limits, the right person will rise to meet you there. The wrong one will fall away. Either way, you win. You're not being tortured. Or you find someone, if someone finds you, who actually loves you and wants to care for you and be with you and have you care for them and all that stuff that is nice and reciprocal. And any of this sounds good to you and it's too quick because I'm not expounding that much, maybe just go and rewind it a little bit and listen to it until it clicks. I find sometimes if I go for a nice long walk and I listen to a podcast, for some reason that's where I clear my head on a nice walk, or like a walk on a treadmill, or a walk through the neighborhood, or something like cutting the grass, where it's just a mundane task that's just, stripe up all the way up and down the lawn. It's almost like you're in a trance, or you're in a state where you could be hypnotized, and that's the best time to have somebody speaking good stuff to you. It seems to stick. That's me anyways. That might not be everybody. It might be some psychological thing behind it. I think there is, but I don't know what it is. All I know is it works. So maybe that would help it. If you've really had a problem with these issues, it might be a good thing to find that place. Maybe it's just lying in your bed at nighttime for an hour before you go to sleep to listen and it really absorb the information, or maybe it's your drive or your commute to work in the morning, or whatever it is. Anyhow, number 3. Step 1, own what happened. This part is tough. Sorry for all the creaks above me. There's somebody walking above my head, and this place is not very solid for whatever reason. Okay, this part is tough, as I said. You have to admit you abandon yourself. Not forever, but in that relationship, you stop showing up for you. You shut down you. You shut down the things that you like to do. That doesn't mean your ex didn't take advantage, because they probably did at some level. Even if they didn't do it on purpose, but at some level, I'm sure they did. It means you see the part you played in your own destruction, because that's the part you can change. Obviously, you can't change that person, but you can change yourself and the importance that you put on yourself and your needs. So grab a notebook and make it real. Write down or speak into a record or some type of recording device, maybe just your phone, but put in order as best you can. Write down the things you gave up, the things that you used to do, maybe gym nights, friendships. Some you could probably get back, some you probably can't. Probably the majority you can't, because people do move on with things. Hobbies, ambitions, alone time, self-care. Maybe you haven't got your nails done forever and you really actually like getting your nails done, or your hair, or something like that, or, Then ask yourself, why did I stop? Was it guilt? Was it fear? Wanting to avoid arguments? The list becomes your blueprint for what you're going to reclaim. Because there was you. There was these things you like to do. You know what I mean? Maybe you loved having a garden, and you haven't had a garden for the longest time because, the best time to dig and mess around in the garden is in the evening. And maybe your spouse needed you to do something at a specific time in the evening. And now that they're gone, you reclaim that time, and then the next time, if you get in a relationship, maybe you say, okay, I love spending time with you, or I want to spend time with you, but this time over here is my garden time. Do you understand? It's a difference. So now, you could be in a relationship and you could be working these things out in the relationship, or maybe you're out of a relationship and you're trying to get back into one, or you're thinking of getting back into one. But the point is when it comes again, what you're going to do is you have set times. There's going to be things that you can adjust, of course. There's nothing wrong with compromise. But when you totally shut off your life ambition, or you totally shut off something you really, really enjoy doing, and it's something that actually makes you smaller, or it changes who you are, then that's when it can be a bad thing. You know what I mean? I don't think there's nothing wrong with, like, you can't say it's something like, okay, well, Fridays I must go to a bar and it's my bar time. Now that one, that's the whole different kind of thing. There's certain things that you can slough off for a new relationship, but when it's a hobby or something that you really, really, really like doing, and it's positive for you and positive for your relationship, I think you can. And maybe I have to do an episode on something like that as well. There's certain things that, yeah, you can end. Obviously, you're not going to go to singles night at the bar if you're in a relationship. So there's certain things that will be cut off, but there'll be something like, again, gardening. Maybe you like to grow your own fruits. Maybe you don't want to have to go to the grocery store to pick up fruits when you can, or vegetables when you can grow your own. You know what I mean? That's obviously something positive, that can be good for you and them. Hear these rutabagas. Okay. 4, or step 2, reclaiming your life piece by piece. Don't make the mistake of trying to rebuild everything overnight. So you're in a relationship. Don't say, oh, I must do this and I must do that and I can't do that. No, you're going to turn your whole life upside down. And if you're in a relationship, you're going to cause some problems because you're in a relationship. There's 2 of you, you know what I mean? Or don't think you can fix everything in one day. They say Rome was not built in one day, right? If you sprint out of the gate, you'll burn out. And I can tell you something about that. Just an aside note. And I'm happy that I have this podcast and I can just go as long as I want. Hopefully I can cut this off before an hour and 20. Of course, you know the answer to this. What I used to do, I used to go to the gym. Anyhow, when I used to go back in the day, I'm going right now, but when I used to go back in the day, it was every day. And there was times that I'd either get injured or I'd get burnt out. And I'd be like, what am I doing? I don't see the results. And then, this time around, what I've noticed going every other day or 3 or 4 times a week, I've noticed that having that rest day actually gives you motivation to go the day after. So you work out, you take a rest day, and maybe you had a good workout the day before, and you're like, I should go to the gym. I have time. I have the same, whatever it is. But for some reason, deciding not to go, gets you motivated to actually go the day after. And this is just something that I've learned now. I don't know if I'm going to feel that way in a month from now, but I really feel that way. It's like, I know that I've given my body time to rest and recoup and muscles to grow. And then when I get in the next day after, I can hit the gym with almost like reckless abandon. It's like, oh, this is really good. It's almost like you feel the muscles growing in there for some reason, having that day off in the middle, but that's just me. So as I said, don't make the mistake of trying to rebuild everything overnight, or just having a full out sprint right out the gate, because it's not 100-meter dash, right? It's a marathon. Life is a marathon. So you don't want to burn yourself out. Start small. If you used to run, there you go. If you used to run, start with 1 evening walk a week. If you lost touch with friends, text one person and make a simple plan to maybe do something, meet up somewhere. Or just have a conversation. If you love painting, buy a small canvas and play around with, without measure. Do what you want. Just a small one. Not saying you're going to do the Sistine Chapel or something. Just a small, 5 by 10 or whatever it is. 5 by 9. Or maybe a little bit bigger. Every small step tells your brain, we're back. I'm working and I'm worth my own time. And once you keep those promises to yourself, your confidence will start to return and you'll start feeling good about yourself again. And trust me, you will attract the same, maybe not the same person, but you'll attract the same way that you attracted before because you have you. Do you understand? There was something that you were doing when you got into the relationship that you stopped doing while you were in the relationship more and more. So you changed the person that you were, which turned off the person that you were with because you were no longer who you were, Rewind that around 4 times. Example, a friend of mine came out of a breakup where she had basically been her partner's unpaid personal assistant for 5 years, right? She started by taking one pottery class a week. That led to reconnecting with a couple of classmates over coffee. A year later, she got a full friend group again and a life that's hers. It didn't happen in a month, though. It happened piece by piece. All right. Segment 5, step 3. Boundaries are not negotiable. Hopefully you heard what I was saying earlier. If you lost yourself before, boundaries are your insurance policy. They're Jake from Allstate, whatever was it? I heard some funny joke from a movie. Boundaries are your insurance policy that it doesn't happen again. A boundary might be, I don't cancel plans with my friends last minute unless it's an emergency. I won't raise my voice or stay in a conversation where I'm being yelled at. I need at least one night a week that's just mine. And here's the key. You enforce those things. Now, I'm not saying that eventually you're in a long-term relationship that your spouse can't encroach on those things, or maybe it was always Thursday, but maybe you have to change it to Monday. You understand? But you still don't want to just lose you altogether. And thinking about this, I think this is the reason why, sadly, why people who even stay married for a long time and say they're both like 78 and 85 or whatever it is, and one passes before the other. And the other one had, I know you're old and you don't have much to do anyways, but a lot of the time the other spouse passes away because they have no life, and that person was their life. Do you understand? So you want to keep your life. You want to stay active, keep your brain working. A boundary you don't uphold is just a suggestion. It's not a boundary. And the first time someone pushes it, that's your test. So all we're saying is pass it. All right. Segment 6, step 4. Learn to sit with silence. A lot of overgivers panic in silence. If their partner is quiet, they start filling the space, doing things, saying things, offering things, just to feel needed again. You have to learn to sit in that space without scrambling, trying to catch up, and there's nothing to catch up to. Sometimes silence isn't rejection from your significant other. It's just silence. And if you can tolerate that without jumping in to fix it or fill it, you break the cycle that drove you to overgive in the first place. Step 5. Build your support network. If your last relationship became your whole world, part of your healing is widening your world again. I mean, you might have been an introvert anyway, so you might not have had, there's always a chance, but chances are you probably had one friend before you. I mean, you could have been a serial dater or a serial relationship person. So maybe you had a friend 4 relationships ago and that person's long gone and made other friends. So you might not get that friend again. But even if you're an introvert and you tend to only have 1 or 2 friends at a time, you can find places and ways, as I was saying in my English voice there's places and ways that you can develop friendships again. So that means friends, families, colleagues, community groups, people who know you as you, or maybe share the same enjoyment, they enjoy the same things that you do, but not as someone's partner. Having that network means you're not relying on one person for all of your emotional needs. it also means if a relationship ends, your whole identity doesn't just go with it, right? And as I was talking about, the two seniors where someone passes away and then the other one has no life. I mean, those people are blessed when they have grandchildren, but still grandchildren have life too, right? So you got to really think. And of course, I'm thinking about this whole thing. Of course, if you make it to 80 something, chances are a lot of your friends are passed on anyways. But there's still other things you can do. Maybe you like to crochet. You know what I mean? You like to knit, parcheesi or something, or bocce ball or whatever these people play. Old beans. Shuffleboard. Segment 8, step 6. Date with self-respect or don't date yet. If you go back into dating, and I'm not a big dater, by the way. Like these people say, I went to the date last week and I went to date this week and a date 2 weeks. You're dating all these people. It's just not for me. But I mean, I'm sure people do date. So this is apparently something normal in society. If you go back into dating before you've rebuilt even some of this, you risk. So at least if you have an understanding of what I'm talking about today, maybe you need to listen to this again or with someone else and you can hash it out with them on what the heck I meant at certain spots. It might be necessary, but you don't want to end up falling into the same pattern. But here's the thing. Dating doesn't have to be off the table for years or months even. The rule is simple. Date without abandoning yourself. Simple. Keep your routines, keep your friendships. I mean, those that actually are positive friendships. I know some people have frenemies and they keep them around for years and years, and it's probably not a good idea, but I mean true friendships. Keep your boundaries. You're not looking for someone to fill you. You're looking for someone to stand beside you, or for you to stand behind or stand in front of. Segment 9. And here it is, the caveat. Healing while in a new relationship. Now here's the nuance I promised you. You will hear people say, don't date until you're fully healed. You're broken. You need to become whole. You can do it that way, but time might be ticking. And for some, that's good advice. But healing isn't always a great thing to do solo, especially if you killed your whole group and you're having a hard time finding a group. And you're like, okay, I'm looking for groups and friends, but I want a relationship. So here's as I said, the caveat, right? Sometimes a healthy new relationship can be a part of your healing. The difference is, and I mean, you're going to have your boundaries, right? The difference is the kind of person you choose. If they respect your boundaries, encourage your independence, and genuinely want to see you keep or rebuild your life outside of them, they can help reinforce all the progress you're making. You can go over this whole episode with them, as a matter of fact. For example, I know a guy who left a long-term controlling relationship where he had lost his self completely. 6 months later, he met someone new who loved that he played in a weekend soccer league, pushed him to reconnect with his old friends, and even encouraged him to take a solo trip. Wild, right? The relationship didn't replace the work he had to do, but it supported it. The key: you can't expect a new partner to do the healing for you, but the right one can make the process less lonely and can help you practice being in relationships where you don't disappear, and they can keep you away from making dumb mistakes. And I'm sure you can figure out what that is. Closing thoughts. If you've been listening today thinking, that's me, because it is, remember this: you're not too far gone. You're not broken. You're not porcelain. Come on. You're not destined to keep losing yourself. You cared deeply. Maybe that's just who you are, right? You gave freely. You thought that was the way to make love last. Now you know, love without self-respect is not love at all. So whether you're single, dating, or in something new, make yourself the constant. Keep your responsibility of loving yourself and taking care of yourself also. Rebuild piece by piece. Protect what you've regained. And when you give now, let it be from a place of wholeness, knowing that I'm giving out of abundance of my heart. I'm giving out of the abundance of what I have to give. I'm not breaking my back. I'm still me, even when I've given you time, even when I've given you gifts, even when I've made things for you or done things for you. Because that's the kind of love that lasts. And that's what you're trying to create. Anyhow, y'all, I hope this one has been one of my better ones. I believe it is. All right. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Let's see. All right. I think I've done everything I need to do. Yes, I think so. All right, great. Anyhow, so I guess I will see you next time, or you'll hear me next time. Please, please, please pass this episode and maybe just my podcast in general to a friend or a frenemy, or maybe someone who did this to you. Either way, please pass it on. I'm trying to grow this podcast. I'm having a difficult time because there are so many podcasts out, and every person, their dog and their grandma have a podcast, and now apparently even the entertainers and athletes need podcasts. Apparently it makes them a lot of money. But you know what I'm saying. Anyhow, thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. If I've not really said it properly or really expressed properly, hopefully this will be the episode that you will pass on to your friends so people can know my heart and why I actually do this podcast. Okay. Anyhow, take care. Until next time, I am MCM signing off. Peace out. Hey, come check out You Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 dogs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.